Okie dokie, folks. We're at the series end. Once I've put this playthrough to bed, I'll be taking some time to share my feelings about New Age. That includes the changelog. The game is updated again. Twice. I'll also be sharing how I feel about this YouTube series and the viewer reaction to it. Stick around to learn how you have influenced the issues and how you may continue to do so. Consider it a way to give back if you enjoyed this adventure. Got it? Grand. Let's get on with it. Version 1.3.10 is when I played last. We'll load this game. And we are going to go straight into disbanding. If I need to remotivate people, if 579 sleepers ain't good enough, then I'll come out of retirement. You don't need to see that action. What the hell is happening in the bottom right corner? Whatever. Don't worry about it. The game is updated twice. We gotta go to a finish. We gotta go. We gotta go before Jonathan breaks anything. Disband. Are you sure you want to disband? Disbanding scatters the liberal crime squad, sending all of its members into hiding, free to pursue their own lives. You will be able to observe the political situation in brief and wait until a resolution is reached. If at any time you determine that the liberal crime squad will be needed again, you may return to the homeless camp to restart the campaign. Do not make this decision lightly. If you do need to return to action, only the most devoted of your former members will return. Type this liberal phrase to confirm. Progressive taxation. Here we go. We can press R to recreate the liberal crime squad. Something I'm interested in stress testing at the end is, well, how disbanding goes in New Age. Try to cycle to new months. Okay, there's a little bit of processing time. March. April. Still have labor rights being arch-conservative. All right, there is processing time that I had not anticipated between the months. But you know what? It makes sense. It makes sense. We're trying to process an entire fucking month so quickly. Police regulation is now elite liberal. Let's go. July here, we've got the death penalty and drug laws and prison reform as elite liberal. August 2025, gun control has joined those issues. Labor rights, still arch-conservative. September, all right, seeing a lot more blue here on this board. Great stuff, great stuff. I'm seeing the public mood, the momentum slowly drifting down from its full tilt elite liberal status. Looking pretty solid. Propositions are coming in from the states here in November 2025. Labor rights, no longer arch-conservative now. We've got torture here at elite liberal status. Just two conservative issues remaining, nuclear power as well as labor rights. December 2025, looking beautiful. Military spending, civil rights, both at liberal. Happy New Year, January 2026. The midterms are coming up in November. So looking pretty damn strong, though. I imagine the hundreds of sleepers are definitely helping the issues. LGBT rights, liberal, free speech, liberal. Some issues still hanging on in moderate status. And of course, those labor rights still remaining conservative. As we go on from March into April. All right, flag burning moderate, gender equality, liberal, LGBT, and free speech, both elite liberal now. May. Looking solid. No problems here. June. Hell yeah. Labor rights and nuclear power both moderate now. No conservative issues remaining at all. July. Yes. It's looking like I am not going to have to recreate the liberal crime squad and, crack my knuckles and make sure that we re-emphasize the situation. Our incredible mob of sleepers and how deeply people care about the issues are going to keep control for the elite liberals through everything. LGBT rights, nuclear power now, elite liberal. There's a couple of lingering issues here. Midterms come. All right. House still remains entirely elite liberal. And the Senate, we do have a conservative, still with 4 moderates, 13 liberals. Of course, a third of the Senate is up for election every year. That amendment we had allowing all the Senate to be their seats to change, that was a special, unique instance. 82 elite liberals, though. We've got this shit fully under control. As November ticks over into December, the triumph of the liberal agenda. We have 8 elite liberal justices and 1 moderate justice who took a seat uh, due to a quick retiring back when we had an arch conservative executive branch. But like, we so on full tilt for everything. These issues are not just going to be elite liberal, they're going to be our winning issues where we go even more extreme. 99% here have a favorable opinion of the president. And interest has waned in a number of issues while remaining pretty high, and so many others. People are still deeply passionate about everything. Free abortions are easily available at any time during pregnancy. All species of life have equal rights, even bacteria. With no police, criminals follow the honor system and turn themselves in. All large organizations are prohibited from keeping any data about anyone. The death penalty, like all other punishments, has been abolished. A global ban on nuclear power and nuclear weapons is enforced by UN inspectors. Pollution is unheard of, and nature has reclaimed much of the land. All work is voluntary and unpaid, and people are free to pursue their passions. All sexual minorities are embraced, and most people are polyamorous. Corporations are illegal, and all businesses are worker-owned cooperatives. Free speech is sacrosanct, and diverse points of view are celebrated. Flag burning is traditionally done on July 4th to celebrate freedom. All gun manufacturers have been shut down and all existing guns destroyed. Money no longer exists. Everything is free, and everyone enjoys lives of luxury. Binary gender identities no longer exist, and gender segregation has ended. The very idea of race has been universally discarded as pseudoscience. The government distributes free recreational drugs to anyone who wants them. Borders are open and anyone can come and go as they please. There is proportional representation in over a dozen major political parties. The military has been abolished and the entire world is at peace. Instead of prison, criminals voluntarily attend free support groups. Terrorism ended after the government formally apologized to terrorist leaders. The triumph of the liberal agenda. Let's get on with it. In December 2026, 715 recruits, 49 martyrs, that's 48 brownie sellers, and 1 Navy SEAL in episode 29 who got blown up by a tank. 1,001 kills, 7 kidnappings. We earned over $1.5 million and spent over one and a quarter. We bought 18 flags and we burned 14 of them. My universal liberal statistics are doubled for whatever bizarre reason, because I have literally just seen this screen for the first time. Okie dokie. Sure. Whatever. It's doubled. My numbers. Awesome. With the playthrough complete, and it is only one playthrough complete despite those statistics on the left getting doubled, it is time to shift gears. I will begin with things I enjoy about Liberal Crime Squad New Age. New Age is accessible, easy to get, easy to run, runs natively in a browser window with an emulated text interface. So, you could play it on Windows, Mac OS, Linux, even smartphones. You can compile specific builds. Jonathan started offering one for Windows with version 1.3. The latest Bay 12 version and the latest community version of Liberal Crime Squad, easy to get, technically runnable. Here are the games rendered in Microsoft PowerShell on Windows 11. You can alter the raster fonts or even swap off them entirely, but the game's display will get fucked up, particularly the vignettes. I've shown that off in playthroughs past. So you're dealing with that in some way. Maybe you're eagle-eyed. Maybe you're using a magnifier. Maybe you're rendering the games in something else. Maybe you're just playing through it. Whatever the case, less accessible than New Age. That's fact. What's also fact is that Liberal Crime Squad New Age provides more resources for the player. There's an actual onboarding process with help documentation. You're not getting that in the official release. And the community version is, spotty. So you're dealing with that in some way. Maybe you're doing research on the Bay 12 Curses subforum. Maybe you're referencing the aged wiki dot source. I contributed to that. Maybe you're learning real hard from trial and error. Nothing new for Bay 12, right? So it goes. Shifting to opinion, I find accessibility to be the best selling point for playing New Age over a different Liberal Crime Squad experience. Managing a terrorist organization Liberal Crime Squad has never been comfier. Off-site, on-site, solo, group, peaceful, violent, the best display and feedback I've had yet in a Liberal Crime Squad. Something else I enjoy about Liberal Crime Squad New Age, Jonathan has made changes here with this self-professed radical design departure. This ain't the same game with a different user interface and a different user experience. We don't have Liberal Crime Squad remastered on our hands. No, New Age is a recreation. It is a similar, yet separate video game. Cool. I signed up for something different, even though that something different contains elements I'm ambivalent toward or outright dislike. That's fine. If I ever need to play Liberal Crime Squad again, then I can just play Liberal Crime Squad. If I want Liberal Crime Squad Enhanced Edition, then I can just pick an iteration of the community fork. Tangent. I feel this way about the System Shock remake. You may recall I played System Shock Enhanced Edition for the channel back in 2019, not a blind playthrough. In 2022, I showcased the medical demo for the System Shock remake, and I noted my interest in playing the finished product. Well, I watched my friend Lethal Feline play through the remake back in August 2023, and I'll share what I wrote at the end of his playthrough. These feelings mostly hold true through all of Night Dive's patching to the remake since. Believe me, I know about patch 1.2, and I've played the game myself while trying to care. Didn't work. Wrapping the tangent back around to New Age, I wouldn't have bothered with the System Shock remake if it was just a re-enhanced edition, and I would not have bothered with New Age if it was just a re-community edition. Let's cover some of these differences. I'll still keep that text on the screen in case you want to read this while also listening to me. That's an incredible multitasker. Skill pruning. No axe, club, pistol, knife, rifle, shotgun, SMG, or sword. You got martial arts, firearms, heavy weapons, and throwing. I'm good with it. Stat changes. There's no health attribute. Instead, heart and wisdom govern hit points. Martial arts is tied to strength instead of agility. Seduction is tied to heart instead of charisma. Teaching is tied to charisma instead of intelligence. Yeah, okay, whatever. Dice rolls. They're all different or so close that it may as well be all. I have no other feedback beyond dice rolls exist and may be changed again, maybe even during your playthrough, so good luck. Enforced mercy rules. Conservatives have to pose an active threat to you on sight in order for you to use violence against them. Well, unless the conservatives aren't alarmed. You are absolutely allowed to stealth kill those defenseless conservative teenagers. I'm mostly fine with enforced mercy. You at least get their weapons. There are some targets I do not want to be merciful toward, but hey, the game is in flux. We'll see what happens. Violence provokes rampage branding in the media, forcing the player to pay a tax for blood or find a solution. Sure, not an issue. Controlling the narrative is a worthwhile endeavor. Gear changes, especially for clothes. You can add armor to almost any outfit. Found it pretty fun. Hostage changes. They can now be ransomed. They may volunteer to be sleepers on release. No more accidentally recruiting them, and also no more violent beatings or torture sessions or force-feeding drugs. Just say yes to mandatory yoga and poetry slams. And the cops hunt your victims less aggressively. Listen, I'm not big on kidnapping and Liberal Crime Squad. I see it as a novelty with limited lasting value. The new system adds more upside by toning down police aggression, but as of now, I'm still not into the system. So, what did I dislike? I'm removing this text, by the way. You might want to pause if you haven't finished it, if you care. What did I dislike the most about this Liberal Crime Squad adjacent experience? Well, this was my easiest nightmare mode run of Liberal Crime Squad. No enemy could stop me, despite the increased risks I took as the series progressed. Some of that could be attributed to prior game knowledge. The New Age was about as vicious toward me as a wet paper bag. Now, the changelog, and here's where we're going to spend some minutes on the changelog. Let's click back into the game here. I don't even know what changed on 141. That got pushed as I was preparing for this. Let's look at 140. Media update. Cable news, AM radio, and the Conservative Crime Squad has a conservative star. Will now also run end-of-day news stories. The Liberal Guardian can no longer secure a monopoly on end-of-day news coverage with enough writers. The Liberal Guardian can now run major event news stories. Conservative outlets always run negative major event stories, while the Liberal Guardian will always run positive ones. Conservative outlets always portray the CCS positively and the Liberal Crime Squad negatively. The Liberal Guardian does the opposite. Conservative outlets now push gun control more conservative with every story about a crime squad, regardless of what they were doing. Major event news stories now fire 4 times as frequently. Cable news and AM radio are dependent on public opinion for their share of the media. Liberal Guardian is dependent on your writers as well as public opinion of the LCS for its share of the media. Conservative Star is dependent on the CCS's strength as well as public opinion of the CCS for its share of the media. Liberal Guardian special editions will now show up in the news history. All right, this sounds pretty compelling. Also sounds like a way for the Liberal Guardian and having enough folks on that to just completely dominate and crush, all the oxygen, all the public interest. Maybe it indicates that. Combat changes. Combat attack roles have been rebalanced to use wider variants, making skill differences less reliable. Agility now affects your chance of dodging attacks when the enemy is using a melee attack. Agility does not directly help, though dodge still matters against range attacks. You now get a flat minus 25 juice for killing someone accidentally, regardless of how much juice the victim had. The president will now have much more courage when encountered in combat, will be unlikely to run away, as we saw during this playthrough. Fixed dodge penalty not applying on armor upgrades. I wonder if the tank suit that no one was wearing, I wonder if that had any impact on that. Fixed bravery calculations not correctly identifying guitars and banjos as musical weapons, which I reflected on in the AM radio station and cable news station beatdowns. Stealth changes. Stealth kills are now notably harder when conservatives are suspicious, whether due to blood or due to general suspicion. I remember when I was doing stealth kills. You will no longer be able to sneak when wielding a torch. I remember sneaking while wielding a torch. Black block outfit and several other clothing items have had their stealth values reduced from very stealthy to just stealthy. My son, black block outfit. Security standing by metal detectors will give more explicit feedback about why you're being admitted some surprising situations when laws are arch-conservative. Good. Moderates will no longer react to you picking up loot. Neat. Liberals will now ignore almost all crimes they witness. Hurrah. You can no longer alienate bystanders after successfully influencing a jury. Fix some clothing not being identified as sneaky when shopping, even when they should. Okay. Like the black turtlenecks we saw in the department store. Siege changes. This seems pretty poignant to what happened with us. Increase the chance that elite reporters sneak in or engineers destroy your bollards during sieges. We never saw any elite reporters, and I know they're there because I've had them before in prior playthroughs, and I assumed they were still in the game with New Age. Engineers destroying bollards happened one time. It was a moment of rejoicing. Revise the Elite Reporter Siege event to be more difficult. The Elite Reporter Siege event will now show up in the news archive. Tanks will now attack you outside your safe house if you sally forth, even if you have bollards. Good. More enemies will confront you if you sally forth during a siege. Reasonable. Tanks should now have enough courage to fight to the bitter end even after losing thousands of health points. No more crawling away whimpering, you fucking tanks. Enemies sieging you will now have more courage in combat, will generally prefer to fight it out rather than flee. Okay. Booby traps will now blast blood on the walls when they fire on a group of enemies. Enemies wounded by booby traps will now lose significantly less health up front, but will be bleeding. So many times they were just in single digits health-wise when I came up on them. Enemies wounded by booby traps will continue to move around. That's notable. Enemies already wounded by booby traps that hit another booby trap are just fucking done. Enemy reinforcements will arrive more frequently during sieges. You can now equip items through the squad interface even when your safe house under attack. Yeah, instead of having to do individually, person. Yeah, shutting down the police station will no longer completely prevent police sieges, but will still diminish heat. Having a chief of police sleeper, or 17 of them, will no longer debilitate the ability of the military to hunt your safe houses once the issue escalates beyond the local police. This is something I learned, that apparently the chief of police could do this. And we had many chiefs. Many strong chiefs. Character changes. Tanks now have increased heavy weapons skill. Agents have more skill, more juice. Agents now have integrated soft armor in their suits. Good. Sex workers now more gender diverse. Sex workers have several new lines to use when rejecting pickup lines from people dressed as police officers. Prisoners will now be unwilling to continue talking to you after rejecting a pickup line. People will now identify as non-binary more frequently, and elite liberal LGBTQ laws. The president will now have more base effectiveness as a sleeper. Agents and Secret Service will now have lower base effectiveness as sleepers. A crackhead has been renamed a drug addict. Cheerleaders can now show up at more locations. I'll rejoice about that. The cheerleader crime squad, it can still happen. The CC... Oh, no. I have to rethink that name. Background influence activities like writing have much less impact on public interest than the issues. Yeah, I knew this one was coming. Constitutional amendments now require ratification by 3/4 of states instead of 2/3. Notably, this could have caused me to lose the game. If the Constitution had been repealed, had I not influenced the issues enough, public interest enough, for Congress to be like, I don't know. Like, if this had been kicked to the states, I'd have been like, what the fuck do you mean 35 states said, yeah, let's repeal the Constitution, and that was good enough? Well, I guess this playthrough's over. Congress and states are both more inclined to pass constitutional amendments at extreme public opinions. Okay. Interface updates. Many more screens now have key highlighting and support mouse input. Some screens have had their paging methods adjusted to be more consistent and intuitive. Some screens have had their input keys updated to better support non-English keyboard layouts. That's great. A concern, or not a concern, a suggestion I had was, being able to adjust key bindings. That'd be a great thing that we could have here. It's a new age. Support different keyboard layouts. The crash report screen will now ignore input for about 1/4 second, so you're less likely to skip past it. Fix some typos, incorrect text, and overly narrow text areas in Siege-related screens. Isaac G's name is now spelled correctly. Native Windows build save data folder has been changed. Conservatives converted via guitar will no longer take a large effectiveness penalty as sleepers. Hey, all right. Saw that at the end with the Navy SEALs. Fixed a crash that could occur when releasing many people from the LCS in the same day. Fixed an issue where date napping people could cause them to end up in the wrong city. Volunteering for a left-wing candidate character creation will now correctly give law, not street sense. And then 141 doesn't just look like a cleanup thing. Talks about major news stories. Scoop by Liberal Guardian will no longer have a chance to include some conservative flavored text. News story about a book written by a former inmate will now be a story about violence for abusive guards rather than a story about sexual assault from other inmates. Bug, crash, now always a good place to buy guns from gang members when approaching them through the recruitment activity. The recruiting screen now allows mouse input for who to talk to. All right, that was a good chunk of time spent on reading that there changelog, which, yes, it does tell me the government's got some more bite to it. And that may very well be true. But how much difference would it make to this run? You may recall that I wanted to know how well New Age could handle scaling up the organization compared to other Liberal Crime Squad experiences. The answer is quite well in recruitment and training, and quite horribly beyond that. I suffered 4 dozen casualties in this run, +1. But I never lost anyone who mattered, because frankly no one but the founder mattered. And even then, could still be replaced. I cannot recall another run of Liberal Crime Squad where I treated just about everyone as an interchangeable part. Let's say I needed to replace someone. I'd spend, we'll call it a half week on recruiting. Go meet someone, chat them out, get them there. Hooray, they've joined me. Another half week getting them to 200 juice, just running a groove to release some oppressed sweatshop workers. A disgustingly little amount of time getting them pumped full of skill, because that's something you can quickly do in Liberal Crime Squad New Age, because we're taking the community fork Isaac G version of where you had like toggles for how quick you wanted skills to increase, and it's on full blast, and you cannot turn that off. The Community Edition has more game start options than New Age provides. I would like to see those back. So yeah, disgustingly little amount of time. Now they have skill. Ta-da, a fresh part ready for service. Easy. Sure, org chart losses might cause me to lose contact with some people, but that's okay. There's a fresh batch of people just a brief hop away. I don't even have to travel to a site. Done. An excellent strategy game may posit to the player that it is always better to be bigger, but it's hard to get and stay bigger, so the interesting gameplay choices may revolve around how you get and stay bigger. An alternative strategy game, which could also be excellent in theory, I guess, is that there are merits and flaws to remaining small or big, and you choose what's best for your current situation and perhaps personal preferences too. Yeah, okay. Well, New Age doesn't pursue either of those lines. New Age tells me it is always better to be bigger, and it's dead fucking simple to get that way if I'm just willing to deal with the key presses. More people means more actions, means more energy, means more of whatever I want in game, means more potential defenders if I am attacked, because 80 people on my side is always better than 8. And yes, New Age enables this behavior more so than other Liberal Crime Squad versions due to the ease of recruiting people, training them up, and assigning them tasks. Consequently, I feel as if I've solved New Age. These new changes with the latest patch, I'll make sure to recruit more liberals to handle the extra danger. Reduced income for all tasks, I'll just give more people to do those tasks. What's that? Brownies are less profitable because I'm not playing on nightmare mode, so drug laws are not arch conservative? Assign more liberals. Increased attack frequency, more liberals. More attackers, more liberals. Scarier enemy weapons or vehicles, more liberals. I always win initiative if I can crush action economy because I have so many liberals taking action first because I always win initiative, then I will always win even if I'm sent against a squad of M1 Abrams tanks. Suggestion time. Solving for scale would mean the creation of meaningful gameplay choices. Ideally. Think of RimWorld. RimWorld is a storytelling engine, a colony simulator, but there's plenty of strategy too. You have a colony, your colonists have wealth values, and those influence how dangerous the threats to your colony are. Having more people can be better if those people are adding positive value to your colony. There is meaningful choice. Are you willing to risk having this new colonist? Think of empire building video games. You play cities or conquer planets. There's a corruption mechanic in place, or a maintenance mechanic, or a happiness mechanic. Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri is one of innumerable examples where it is always better to be bigger, but it's hard to get and stay bigger. Your empire has a bureaucracy. It can become bloated. You can solve that through various means. Your empire has dissidents, drones. They can sabotage your bases and even rebel to other factions. You can solve that through various means. But it's up to you to find the solutions. The growth ain't free. There is meaningful choice. Translating those examples in the Liberal Crime Squad New Age could result in a maintenance fee, perhaps applying only to liberals stationed at the same place, perhaps as you're buying extra buildings and expanding underground to staff everyone in an entire compound or apartment building, whatever. I'm not your boss. Have dozens of people pouring out of an apartment room. Good. Threats to you may also scale. Let's say you're like in a SWAT 4 or breach and clear situation, and you've got the briefing, and you're told there's 6 armed and dangerous people in this diner versus 60 armed and dangerous people in a fucking compound. How does the response change? Does the government Liberal Crime Squad just send more bodies? Do they use heavier ordnance? Do they use drone strikes? How about artillery bombardment? Would your answers change depending on where the Liberal Crime Squad base is located? The government is less willing to flatten the condos than it is a factory? Would your answers change depending on the current issues? Police regulation, military spending, and such. Would it change if the Liberal Crime Squad had previously thwarted sieges at that same location? How easy would all this be to code? And would the end effects result in a better experience? A much simpler line of suggestions from me. Sleepers. We got help text on liberal activities. We got help text about being on site. What I want the game to tell me is all about what sleepers can do for me. Describe each action. Maybe inform me that some professions can have special effects. Perhaps go into them, such as the chief of police, if, say, I have several of them. I don't need a dossier on every profession and what all cultural issues it may nudge and what all assets could be accessed and whom all may be recruited by any individual sleeper. Depending on job and location, I just want something more than 0. All right, that part got pretty fucking long, particularly with the changelog. Turns out I've got feelings about New Age. Positive and negative, mostly positive. Real glaring negative for me. Any playthrough I might do in the near future would try and work around the negative. To wrap up here as we're approaching the half-hour mark, I'm going to talk about this playthrough and you, the viewer. I slammed out this series in over a half month. Look at this. 31 videos published between May 1st and May 18th. Over 13 hours. Obviously, what you're seeing on your view right now is not counting this video. I spent an extra several hours listening to all the videos sped up and applying minimal editing. A few videos had heavier editing. It was a quicker pace than I intended at series start. I was going to ease into the nostalgia series, soak in the environment, one chunky video a day, if that. I started doing 2 a days because of the 1.3 update coming out at the start of the month, and I kept on it. I don't think primarily but in large part because of viewer interest. Because the nostalgia hit much harder for you all than I had anticipated. I made my peace with never playing Liberal Crime Squad again. I talked about that in the first episode. Well, many of you had not made peace with me never playing Liberal Crime Squad again. So many comments, some emails, a few direct messages from people who watched me play Liberal Crime Squad 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years ago. From people who last saw me play Liberal Crime Squad back in 2020 and kept rewatching that playthrough. It's not that LCS is an exceptional video game, although some of you may feel that way, but the video game and me recording it opened a fucking time portal and threw your asses into your own memories. I wouldn't call it navel gazing so much as just like the profundity of where you had been and what time has elapsed and how you have changed and how the world has changed. I was not prepared for the reaction. It has been many years since I've gotten that visceralness. It has been many years since I have had known multiple hate watchers of an ongoing series. And as we're at the end here, and I'm looking back at the breakneck pace and the viewers who kept up with that pace, while also knowing the folks who will come rolling on in as the days go by, because not everyone had over 13 hours to spare on this shit this half month, I'm left with questions for you. 1, what compelled you to watch this playthrough? Example, nostalgia. 2, are you left satisfied by having seen this playthrough to its end? 3, do you want me to do another playthrough of Liberal Crime Squad New Age? Tangential to 3, if you're interested in a playthrough of another Liberal Crime Squad affiliated thing, you can pencil that in as well. But the question 3 pertains to this, primarily. Question 4, if the answer to 3 is yes, then how long do you think you'll need to recharge before embarking on another playthrough? Like, if nostalgia was your primary carrier, then you're like, it's spent. I'm good. Don't need to see this again. We gotta wait until like the nostalgia gremlin comes back and spirits me back through time once more. And that could take, it might not be June 1st in 2 weeks when that recharges. Maybe it's next year. Maybe it's in 2030, 5 years from now. Those are my 4 questions. What compelled you to watch? Are you left satisfied? Do you want another New Age playthrough? And if yes to 3, how long are you going to need to recharge? Your responses will influence how I approach sharing more Liberal Crime Squad here. Maybe I bury it. Maybe I pitch a different version of Liberal Crime Squad I'd use, such as Terra Vitae. I think I got the name right? Yeah, probably. Maybe we're back here in 2 weeks with a conduct of sorts I thought of that could be interesting. Let me know, and we'll see. There's a lot more I could say about really everything covered thus far. I've shown myself to be long-winded over 15 years. But that's it. I'm fucking done. It's time to get on with getting out of here. I got other shit to do, like not telling you my thoughts. To my liberal comrades, moderate potentials, and yes, even you, conservative sleeper scum, goodbye and good luck.